Hey folks, and welcome back to the channel for another Project Zomboid guide. Now, I put a hell of a lot of time into this one so that you guys don't have to. Essentially, I spent a few hours going through Louisville and mapping out every single location of worth that I could find and marked it on my map. And yes, I'm calling it Louisville, live with it. I'm honestly doing it at this point just to annoy the people that feel the need to comment on my pronunciation. I would stress that at this point of the video as well, I'm focusing purely on buildings with high loot. There's some fantastic map design in Louisville, and I intend to visit these locations at a later date and highlight them for you guys, but for now, we're focusing on the goods. If you do find this video useful and you find some locations to go and raid in your own playthroughs, make sure to drop the video a like and subscribe to the channel for more Zomboid tips, guides, and gameplay. So, let's get started with location number 1. I wanted to kick this video off with a loot location that I think can easily be missed amongst all of the shops and storefronts of Louisville, but stands out from the crowd in that it offers something nowhere else has up until this patch. In the very northeast corner of Louisville, there's a pretty big mall complex that is full of a whole range of stores, and a lot of zombies too, for that matter. That said, we're not looking inside, we're looking for a store right next to it. Whilst it doesn't look much in the front, this video store holds a back room filled with VHS tapes, which are still pretty damn rare with standard loot settings. Hit this place and search for any VHS tapes that give you skill increases. You can find mechanics videos, fitness tapes, or any other shows that are ordinarily on the Life and Living channel. I'm not sure if any other shops like this have been added to the game just yet in other areas. I know a lot of the other areas have had overhauls, but let me know in the comments if you've seen any locations like this outside of Louisville as well. Second on my list is the map store, which up until this recent patch might not have been considered all that useful, but now it's definitely got a clear value to it. For anyone that's unaware, whenever you find a map, just like the ones we could find previously, they will now be added to your handheld map, revealing entire areas to you once you read them. Assuming you're not using third-party maps, this store can be a huge lifeline if you're planning on exploring various other areas outside of Louisville during your playthroughs. Keep some of these at your base, and better yet, you can reveal these areas on your map with every fresh respawn for you and your teammates you're buddied up with. Do note that with this location, it's not necessarily guaranteed to spawn maps, but it has a lot of containers that can spawn maps. More often than not, you'll find a lot of books even if you can't get your hands on the maps to peruse, so it's still a really beneficial place to visit. Now, speaking of books, that brings me to my next location, the university campus. Now, not everywhere in this campus is what I consider a gold mine, but there's one building in particular that stood out to me when I was searching through the location, and that was the library. This building is at the northwest corner of the area, and whilst there's often a lot of zombies around, what's inside will always be worth that risk. This place has rows upon rows of bookshelves across 2 floors, making it a fantastic location to hit in the early stages if you can brave the zombie hordes in the area. You can literally come out of this building with every book or magazine you're going to need, even with the rare or extremely rare loot settings applied. Get here and get here early, because I can tell you this is going to be a frequently hit location in multiplayer once people cotton on to how valuable this place actually is. Now, once you've got your hands on some books, you'll naturally want to stock up on some supplies that can increase your skills, whether it be mechanics, electrical, or carpentry. With that in mind, I've got a one-stop shop for many of the tools and crafting materials that you'll need for a range of skills and the tools to increase those skills too. If you're coming into Louisville from the military checkpoint, not too far up the road on your right-hand side is an industrial estate. You can find a plethora of useful materials in these buildings. There's a couple that are filled with construction materials and crates, including a large warehouse on the south end. There's an electronics factory, which is great for the avid electrician to level their skills, and my personal favorite, the mechanics place. This is located on the north side of the estate and is absolutely chock full of car parts in pristine condition, usually with the mechanics skill books that you'll need to level across all levels as well. And if you're really short on food to the point where you no longer have any self-respect, there's a pet food manufacturer that literally has crates full of nothing but dog food. Well, why let it go to waste, I suppose. Alright, so if you've gotten this far into the video and you're wondering where all the guns are at, like any good Kentucky resident would, I found more than one good location for this, and I wanted to put these into their own section right now. Let's start with the military checkpoint, which is somewhere that you're likely already familiar with if you've visited Louisville already, as it's at the main entrance. On the east side of the camp, you'll find this gazebo with a bunch of crates stacked underneath it. You can find medical supplies, ammo, and guns, and some of these crates, and not a small number of them either. This often makes her a great place to hit on your way into the city for the first time, to stock up on what's to come. Now, if we were to take a right turn at the crossroads just north of this checkpoint and follow it all the way down to the 4th left turn, you'll find a small cluster of buildings. One of them is a gas station, one stocks food, and lastly, there's a hunting store. This place is barricaded with metal shutters by default, so you'll need a sledgehammer for this one, but it is absolutely chock full of guns and is in the outskirts of the city, so it isn't too much of a risk either. For the next military location, we jump to the northwest corner of town. In this area, there's an army surplus store, which is mostly clothing items out front, but in the back, there's actually a locked up area with some lockers and gun cabinets. Again, you'll need to break into this area and will need the necessary tools to do so, but if you can gather them, it's well worth the visit. Not to mention that the clothing items aren't completely useless either, with there often being military boots, jackets, helmets, and gloves on offer to leave you with some better protective gear. Now, this last one isn't quite as loaded up as the other military locations that I've mentioned, but all the same, it can be worth the visit, as I think this will go missed out on a lot of multiplayer servers. Along the southern edge of town, you can find the fence line that encases all of Louisville. In a couple of places along the fence line, you can find whole towns that have been burnt down in what seems like an effort to stop the spread of the infection by the military. And with that, there's also some military outposts and even residential housing that's been repurposed for military use. Even with the burned down buildings, they have a lot of loot inside them in places. It's relatively quiet here in my experience, and again, there isn't a whole bunch of loot, but if you get lucky, you might find some good items in those outposts. My last location in this video is for either the avid carpenters or anyone looking to stock up on food during the really early stages of a playthrough. Now, these 3 warehouses on the southern outskirts of the city can be an absolutely incredible find, but only if you get there in the early stages, as I said. One of these is empty, but in the other 2, you can find crates that are stocked to the brim with sacks of produce, like onions, potatoes, carrots, you name it. The stuff is literally everywhere. Now, the catch? It's not refrigerated, so you're gonna have to act quickly if you want to try and save as much of this food as possible. I'd even go to the lengths of bringing a freezer with you if you can, to just keep it refrigerated and then come back for it later. I can imagine this location being a real benefit if you're into a particular community server and can keep track of when they decide to reset, so you can get out here first. Even if you can't make it out here quickly, however, the crates themselves make for great XP for anyone leveling carpentry, and also this location can stock up your composters for fertilizer. It can fill multiple composters with what you find here, and you can use that to grow your own crops. Alright, so that's it from me in this one, guys. If you think I missed any locations on this one, please do let me know in the comments. I know there will likely be some that I didn't find, and maybe some secrets that we can share amongst ourselves to get them out there into the wider community. If you're looking to play some multiplayer, our servers are now open. Just search for The Pond in your browser and use password QUACK with a capital Q for our public server. A special thank you to all of my Patreon supporters as well for helping me push towards doing content creation as a full-time gig, and for playing with me on our whitelisted server. Link in the description for that too if you're interested. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I will see you all in the next one.